methods of detection of resistance. The first method we have seen conventional bioassay. The second one we have seen the discriminating by dose bioassay, and the third we have seen the genetic methods. Now we will see the remaining three methods that will be enzyme assay, ELISA, and PCR based techniques. I will share my presentation. Sorry, it is not in uh, slideshow mode. I will put it in slideshow. So the next one, it is one of the most widely used method for detecting insecticide resistance, that is biochemical method. In biochemical method, mainly we will go for the measurement of the level of detoxifying enzymes. Which are all the detoxifying enzymes which is involved in the insecticide resistance? Can you name?
Esterases,
Esterases. Yes.
glucokinase transferase,
Glucokinase transferases.
ur-
Uridine diphosphate, UDP, glycosyl transferase,
MFO.
MFOs. Yes, this. Okay, good. So what we have studied at that time was in the resistant insects, the level of these enzymes will be greater than the susceptible ones. So if we can measure the level of enzyme in the resistant insect and the susceptible insect, we can compare these two, and we can have this. Uh, we can compare these two, and if we can measure these two, if the resistant insects are having a higher level of say esterase enzyme, we can say that the resistance is due to higher production of esterases. So this is what we do. This we can routinely do. This is not a big thing. Most of the students nowadays, every year, at least one student will have some biochemical assay with respect to these enzymes. So these three enzymes, what we normally do is each for each enzymes we have a substrate. That means a compound which has affinity towards that particular enzyme. Say esterase. In the case of esterase, we use the substrate either alpha naphthyl acetate or beta naphthyl acetate. So what will happen is that if we have alpha naphthyl or beta naphthyl acetate, esterase will bind to alpha naphthyl acetate or beta naphthyl acetate, and it will develop a color. Once color is developed, we can read it in a spectrophotometer. That's what we normally do. Understood? Just like protein estimation. In the what is the normal method of estimation of protein? Do you remember the name?
SDS page.
Oh, that is advanced method. Simple level of protein estimation. A spectrophotometric method. SDS page is we differentiate the thing based on the weight, molecular weight, and all. If you want to measure protein content in say particular insect, have you heard about? Yes.
Prometheus.
Have you heard about Lowry's method? No. Anyway,
No.
if you have time for practicals, we will do all those things over here. So Lowry's method, what we will do is again we will take protein, insect protein, we will have a substrate. I forgot the name of the substrate for protein estimation. I forgot it. Once we mix that, it will develop a light blue color, and that once there is a blue color developed, we can read it in spectrophotometer at that particular wavelength. So that's what we do here also. In esterase, we will use either alpha naphthyl acetate or beta naphthyl acetate as substrate the substrate. We mix it with the insect protein which we have extracted from the insect. Once we are mixing this substrate with the uh, protein extracted from the enzyme from the insect, both will react and it will develop a color, and that will be read in the spectrophotometer. In the similar manner, we can detect all the enzymes which are involved in insecticide resistance. For glutathione transferase, the normal substrate used as CDNB or DCNB. CDNB is 1-chloro-2,4-dinitrobenzene and DCNB is 1,2-dichloro-4-nitrobenzene. DCNB or CDNB. This is usually we say it like that. CDNB is 1-chloro-2,4-dinitrobenzene. DCNB is 1,2-dichloro-4-nitrobenzene. Again, GST, the enzyme GST will react with this substrate and it will develop a color. And that color, we'll measure it in spectrophotometer. So we'll have a reference of the susceptible insect. We'll have the measurement from the resistant insect. Compare these two. If the resistant insect is having a higher level of GST, then we will say that the resistance is due to higher GST activity. And for mixed function oxidases, as one thing you remember in the last class, what we had discussed was mixed function oxidases have broad substrate specificity. That means it can react with n number of substrates. So here also several kinds of assays are used. We can use different kinds of substrates, so it's not common. In esterases and glutathione esterases, we use normally alpha, beta naphthyl acetate or CDNB or PCNB respectively. But MFO, it's not so. Several substrates are used. So, are you clear? The base theoretical basis of using enzymes and substrates for assessing resistance?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. Then the next one is PCR based methods. In PCR based methods, it's common just like for target site insensitivity, we have point mutations. So PCR, the major function of PCR is to detect mutations. So it will amplify those regions, only those regions which have that particular enzyme, and if we sequence that area, if there is any mutation, yes, say amplify the esterase gene. In PCR, we will amplify the esterase gene and sequence the gene from the susceptible insect as well as from the resistant insect. If you see all the ATGC sequences in that gene, if anywhere there is a slight change in the genetic makeup in the susceptible as well as the resistant one, we can point out. I think you might have seen in many of the biotechnology studies. So sequence the gene. We are trying slowly. We are some biotechnology students. We are trying to give this kind of work. So we will have a study of this kind also. Anu Thomas is also having. We are proposed for PhD student. We have proposed this kind of work for monitoring resistance in this one. Brinjal fruit on shoot for use notice. So say in the biochemical assay, we found that esterase is the major enzyme which is involved in resistance. Then we will target the esterase gene in Los nodus. We will amplify that esterase gene using PCR. Then sequence that esterase gene. Check whether there is any point mutation happening in the resistant insect and compared to the susceptible one. So that's what we normally do in molecular methods. The next one is immunological method. This is kind of what is ELISA? Do you know what is ELISA?
Enzyme linked immunosuppressant.
Yes, enzyme linked immunosuppressant. So what we will have is uh, um, have you has anyone done the antigen method, antigen test for this corona? How does it work? How does that antigen test for corona works? Someone? Every antigen there will be an antibody. Okay. So what we'll be having, it is just like a filter paper strip, and that filter paper strip will be having the antigen for coronavirus. So that filter paper will be having that antigen for coronavirus. We will be taking the nasal swab. We will be adding there. So if you have corona, the body will have developed antibodies, and that antibody will react with that antigen. And if that reaction happens, it will develop a color in that filter paper. And depending upon that color, we can determine whether we have corona or not. So that's what we normally do. Did you get what I told? How antigen test in corona is done? That's a basic principle. We have antigen, everything. We have antigen for coronavirus. Our body will have antibody. So that antigen will be fixed in a filter paper. Simply said, it is filter paper. No, it's not filter paper at all. It's some material to hold on it. Consider it as a filter paper. So that antigen, that filter paper will be coated with that antigen. We take the nasal swab. That nasal swab will be placed on that filter paper, and this antibody, if it is present, if you are corona positive, that antibody will be there in the body. Antibody will react with that antigen, and it will lead to the development of a color. So that particular color will indicate that you are corona positive or negative. Now we have seen a lot of pregnancy detection kits. The same principle, antigen antibody reaction. So this is the normal way. This is a kind of enzyme linked immunosorbent. Here it's antigen and antibody. In enzyme linked immunosorbent assay, we can use a substrate and the enzyme. Keep a substrate in a filter paper. So we crush the insect, and the crushed body of the insect, put a drop of it into that filter paper. Because if esterase is present, it will bind with the substrate. It will develop a color, and compare it to the susceptible one. We can say whether the insect has higher level of enzyme. Understood?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Dr. Kranti has evolved on ELISA method for detection of I don't know which enzyme. So what he did was he developed a paper strip kind of thing. So he collected Helicobacter larvae, put it in a small centrifuge tube. There is a buffer for that, for extraction of the protein, and it should be stabilized. That buffer is added. That insect will be crushed inside that buffer, so that all the protein will be extracted. Insert that filter paper strip into it, just like a litmus test. So that filter paper will be having this substrate. This substrate will interact with that enzyme. If it is enzyme, say, if it is esterase, the filter paper will be having alpha or beta acetate. Just for imagine, I don't know what actually it contains. So both will interact. Anyway, it will develop a color. So this kind of things are common for resistance detection. So now we are coming to an end of detection methods, various detection methods of insecticide resistance. Now let's move on to the next part. Any doubt in this part, detection?
Sir, റെഡ്യൂസില് റെസിസ്റ്റന്റ് ഡിറ്റക്ഷൻ കളർ ഡെവലപ്മെന്റ് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞില്ലേ,
Ah,
അത് എസ്റ്ററീസ് ഓൾറെഡി ഉണ്ടാവുമല്ലോ, അതിന്റെ എമൗണ്ട് കൂടിയത് അനുസരിച്ച് കളർ ഡിഫറെന്റ് ആയിരിക്കും.
difference ഉണ്ടാവും. The intensity of the color may vary.
ഓക്കെ.
And why we say that the antigen test for corona is not that perfect compared to, it can give false negatives. Why it's so?
For normal cold also, antibodies may develop.
No. Antibody is extremely specific. The antigen which is on that antigen test kit is extremely specific for corona. It doesn't check otherwise. It gives false negatives. There is no false positives in the case of antigen test. In the case of coronavirus, there is no false positive. That means if you are getting a positive result, 100% you are corona positive. But if you are negative, there is a chance of false negative. That's because your body will develop antibody only after a few days, 5 days, 6 days, and it takes time. It takes once you acquire the infection, then it will take a few days to develop the antibody inside the body. So if you have already have infection, say one of you became primary contact of a COVID positive patient, and say you had that contact say yesterday. So today you got the news that yesterday the person whom you are contacted yesterday is corona positive. So tomorrow you are going and checking for an antigen. So you might have acquired the virus, but the body will develop antibody only after a few days. That means the symptoms will appear only a few days. It appears after only a few days. Then only antibody will develop. So if your body doesn't have any antibody, the test will show you are negative. So that's why if you're going for an antigen test, usually doctors advise you to have a period of 5 to 7 days from the date of contact with the COVID positive patient. Say if you are yesterday you are had a primary contact with a COVID positive patient, then your antigen test you should conduct after 5 or 7 days. By that time your body will have enough antibodies if you have acquired infection. Otherwise, if you conduct after 2 days, 3 days antigen test, it will give negative, but your body will have virus. At that time, RT-PCR again will, because it will amplify the gene of the virus, mRNA of the virus. Understood?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay. Now, don't think that development of resistance in an insect is always advantageous. It has its own negative implications for insects. Developing resistance, if an insect is developing resistance, that means it has to have some physiological adjustments to make itself make it resistant to that particular insect. Say an insect has acquired resistance because of the higher production of esterase enzyme. Higher production of esterase means high level of esterase enzyme. The insect will have high production of esterase. Esterase is nothing but a protein. So insect has to produce more protein to become resistant to that particular uh, insecticide. So its resources is whatever resources, that means food, it is consuming is diverted to the production of esterase enzyme. So this diversion of resources to esterase enzyme will have some adverse impact on other physiological functions of the insect. And that adverse impact we call it as fitness cost. That means some disadvantage that the insect will contract because of the development of insecticide resistance. It will affect the survival ability of the. So that is called as fitness cost. So development of resistance is accompanied with high energetic cost. I told you they have to produce more enzyme. Production of more enzyme means need more energy. High energetic cost or significant disadvantage that diminishes the insect's fitness. The survival of the insect will be affected. And let's see what are all the common fitness costs associated with the insect. The first one is slower rate of development. I am not taking up examples over here because if I take examples, each and everyone will have. I will upload a paper in Moodle which you can refer. So they have discussed several examples. In some insects will have reduced adult emergence. Some insects will have reduced fecundity because of development of resistance. Some insects will be smaller in size because of the development of resistance. So it can happen in different kind of insects. So examples will vary. Just understand that these are the common phenomenon associated with development of resistance and it leads to the reduced fitness of the individual. The first one will be slower rate of development. The insect development won't be that quick as in a susceptible insect. Resistant insects develop slowly. And the resistant larvae, the survival of the larvae will be affected. Though it is resistant, the ultimate survival of it will be affected. There will be more larval mortality compared to the susceptible insect. And there will be reduced adult emergence. Resistant, if you compare a resistant insect and a susceptible insect, the number of adults emerging after completing the life cycle. In resistant insect, the number of adult emergence will be low in the resistant compared to the susceptible one. And copulation also will be affected because of resistance. Fecundity is reduced. The number of eggs laid will be reduced. Even if they hatch enough number of eggs, the hatchability, the person hatching also will be affected in resistant strains. And it also sometimes it leads to the reduction in size of the resistant insect. So there are lot of fitness costs associated with insecticide resistance. One there other fitness costs are reduction in capacity to overwinter and survive low temperature, especially in Western countries. It has to overwinter. It has to go for hibernation. It affects the resistance affects that capacity. Then low response to alarm pheromone that is mainly studied in aphids. Some scientists have found that resistant aphids respond very poorly to alarm pheromone. So what will happen if a aphid respond poorly to alarm pheromone? Can anyone say? If the resistant aphid respond poorly to alarm pheromone, what will happen? Just that is not a tough question.
Disperse.
Not disperse. It doesn't respond to alarm pheromone.
It will get attacked by other insects.
Yes, it will get attacked by, it will fall to predation or parasitization. Usually alarm pheromones are released when there is an attack of a predator or a parasite, usually if it coccinellid predators. So if it doesn't respond to, just like a person who has some problem with ear, some hear loss, and if there is some danger coming and if you are shouting at that person, if he is hearing impaired, he won't hear you. So that's what happening. The resistance is reducing its responsiveness to alarm pheromone. So the aphid doesn't perceive the alarm pheromone and it can't escape from the predator. Predators can easily feed on aphids. Usually, this kind of works is normally carried out in Europe, and it is normally published in a journal, Entomology Experimentalis et Applicator. Uh, it is a journal published from Netherlands, I think. So there they published these kind of papers, very good papers. So insects are more vulnerable to attack by parasitoids and predators, depletion of fat reserves because they have to utilize all the energy they stored for the production of enzyme to detoxify the insecticides. Low energy reserves because it can't store any energy. The energy has to be diverted for production of enzyme and reduction in the production of pheromones. It will affect mating. It will reduce the fecundity, reduce hatchability, everything will be affected. So understand that resistance is not always a phenomenon. It is advantageous to insects. It can have its own deleterious effects, its own disadvantages. So even with those advantages, insects will try to overcome this. It has to survive. So even with this fitness cost, it makes up. So it will survive. Otherwise, that species will get completely eliminated from the world. So understood fitness costs.
Yes, sir. Sir, if one generation is resistant, അവർക്ക് ഫിറ്റ്നസ് കോസ്റ്റ് ഒരുപാടുണ്ടായിരിക്കും. അവരുടെ നെക്സ്റ്റ് ജനറേഷനിൽ അത് വീണ്ടും കൂടുമോ കുറയോ അത്?
The fitness cost associated with that will be there in continuously for the subsequent generations also. But with the subsequent generation, insect will slightly overcome this fitness cost because it is routinely associated with it. They try to cope up with that fitness cost. It will be there.
Okay, sir.
If resistance is there, as long as resistance is there, there will be fitness cost. But the insect will try to overcome that fitness cost. That's what happens in insects. Though it cannot avoid completely the fitness cost, it try to overcome somehow. Insects are so adaptive in nature; it will easily adapt. Okay, I will move on to the next topic, that is insecticide resistance. We will start up with insecticide resistance management. Uh, uh, Slightly go through it, and tomorrow we will complete it. Okay, we'll start with the definition and all. So, have you studied about the techniques of insecticide resistance management? What are the strategies of insecticide resistance management? You have to refer your PG class notes. This is usually taught in PG itself. Just a few aspects I have included. That's the only thing I am doing over here. Okay, first we will see the definition of insecticide resistance. This insecticide resistance management, insecticide resistance management. Insecticide resistance management seeks to slow, prevent, or reverse the development of resistance in insects. So what is insecticide resistance management? It is a strategy which seeks to slow, that means slow down the development of resistance. The strategy which helps to anyway insect will develop resistance. We can't prevent it. So one thing we can do is we can slow down the chances of development of resistance. And next one is prevent the development of it's almost an impossible task because if we can prevent only if we have a solid IPM package. Then only we can prevent it. And we can reverse it. How we can reverse it? Can anyone explain how we can reverse it? Any strategy to reverse, say, one insect, say, Helicobacter evolved resistance in cotton to a particular pyrethroids. So how we can we reverse it? Any idea? No? But can we reverse a resistance? So once an insect has evolved resistance, a strain of insect, can we make it again susceptible? Yes or no?
By destroying all the resistance. Is that possible? I don't know. By removing.
Okay, okay. Theoretically, it is possible. I will discuss about it. That is theoretically okay. Destroying what? Okay. Any other strategy? No.
Synergist.
Synergist. That's a resistance management strategy, but it doesn't make the insect susceptible. No. It's a resistance management strategy. I agree. But
Pheromones.
no. It's a simple strategy.
Integrated approach.
Stopping the chemical application.
Yes, stopping the chemical application. Stop the chemical application. Withdraw that group of pesticide. Stop the use of. We took the example of Helicoverpa armigera and we took the insecticide as synthetic pyrethroid. Stop the use of synthetic pyrethroid. So if you stop the use of synthetic pyrethroid, esterase, say imagine esterase is the enzyme which was a high level of esterase was contributing to resistance to pyrethroids in Helicoverpa. You stopped use of pyrethroids altogether. So what will happen? Insect has very high fitness cost. That means in order to keep higher level of esterase, it has to spend more energy. So if there is no selection pressure, if there is no use of pyrethroids, insect will slowly just a minute. So that fitness cost will have, you have seen what is the deleterious effect of resistance in insect. So if you are not exposed to that particular stress or particular selection pressure, slowly the insect will come back to that previous one. So genetically it may be there. Then how it can come back? So one thing I'll explain this. Take the case of Helicoverpa. You have withdrawn pyrethroid. Helicoverpa migrates from one area to another. So you have resistant individuals in a particular, say you are from say Nagpur. The Nagpur population of Helicoverpa has high level of resistance to pyrethroids. The neighboring district area, there it has not developed much resistance. So Helicobacter from Nagpur and the adjacent district can interbreed. So the resistant individuals from Nagpur will interbreed with the susceptible individuals from the neighboring district, and the resistance frequency will get decreased over a period of time. The number of individuals with resistant gene decrease. This can happen in the normal scenario. So if a farmer is continuing pyrethroid application, this can happen also. But what happens is the farmer is repeatedly using pyrethroids. All those susceptible insects which are migrating from the neighboring district into the Nagpur district will get killed at the instance that it migrates to the field, because there is high dose of pyrethroid. The susceptible individuals will get killed. So only the resistant individuals breed among themselves, and all the offsprings will be resistant. But if you are not using the pesticide, the wild population, that means the group population which are not exposed to the pesticide, will have a chance to mate with the resistant individuals. Slowly, the resistance will get diluted. The number of individuals with resistant gene will decrease. And thereby we can reverse the development of resistance. Understood how we can reverse it?
Yes, sir.
So this selection of resistant individuals occurs when we use a concentration, when we use a pesticide dose, it will kill all the susceptible individuals, and only the resistant individuals remain. That is when the resistance develops. So if we withdraw the pesticide, it has a chance to breed with mate with susceptible individuals from the unsprayed areas, untreated areas. That's how we can uh, reverse the development of resistance. And the most common, I think I thought you might have studied these three tactics of insecticide resistance management. Actually, it is given by Georgiou in 1983. Resistance management by moderation, resistance management by saturation, and resistance management by multiple attack. So resistance management by moderation means reduce the use of the pesticide. Reduce the use of the pesticide, that is management by moderation. Lower the mortality caused by chemicals. Management by saturation means Safna, the first insect told, increase the dose to kill all the resistant insects so that we can reverse the evolution of resistance. So that is management by saturation. That means increase the dose to kill all the resistance, but it has its own environmental consequences. And the third one is management by multiple attack. Bindu told we can use synergies. Yes, that is multiple attack. That means we will mix insecticide with a synergist, or we will mix two pesticide molecules with different modes of action, so that we can target the resistance. So that is management by multiple attack. So these are the three strategies which is proposed way back in 1983 by Georgiou. Have you heard these three? Management by moderation, saturation, and multiple attack?
Yes, sir.
Yes, that's what I asked you. Okay. Now, around 10-15 minutes. Okay. Rausch and Daly, later on in 1990, Rausch and Daly, Rausch is Richard T. Rausch. R.T. Rausch is one of the pioneer in insecticide resistance. So he has suggested a following techniques. Actually, these techniques he has classified basically into two. The first strategy is to reduce the fitness of resistant individuals when the insecticide is applied. Reduce the fitness of resistant individuals when the insecticide. Will explain these things in detail. And the second strategy is to reduce the total amount of selection pressure applied. Here you can see, just a minute, take the pointer. See, reduce the total amount of selection pressure, and the other strategy is to reduce the fitness of resistant individuals when insecticide is applied. So reduce the fitness of, first we will say reducing the fitness of resistant individuals when the insecticide is applied. And he has given 5 different ways to reduce the fitness of resistant individuals. And the first way, as Safna suggested, increase the dose to kill all the ones, all the resistant homozygotes and heterozygotes. So that is one strategy coming under reducing the fitness of resistant individuals. And the second strategy is we can use insect chemicals which confer lower level of resistance. We discussed in earlier classes that we are conducted in say our experiment with Tribolium castaneum from FCA Gordon. We had taken 3 insecticides, malathion, dichlorvos, and deltamethrin. All 3 are recommended for pest management in storage in FCA Gordons, and all these 3 are widely used. But you have seen malathion evolved resistance quickly, dichlorvos slightly, and deltamethrin has not at all developed resistance till now. So see, inherently certain insecticides doesn't develop resistance quickly, whereas certain insecticide resistance develop pretty fast. Usually against pyrethroids, insect develop resistance quickly, but I don't know what is the reason for Tribolium remains susceptible to deltamethrin. But there are certain group of insecticides which evolve resistance quickly, certain resistance develop very slowly. That's because of the inherent chemical nature. Say, if we have an ester bond, which is a very weak bond, it can be easily degraded. So that molecule can develop resistance quickly. So those the inherent properties of the pesticide can alter its change the rate of development of resistance. And the third strategy is to treat the most vulnerable stage of the insect that we have discussed in the last class also. We have discussed Helicoverpa armigera. The first few instar larvae are more susceptible than the last instar larvae that we have discussed. So we had to treat the insect when it is at the most vulnerable stage. Then, as Bindu suggested, we can go for the use of synergies. Synergies will suppress the enzyme. So, if it is as esterases, I forgot it. The synergies used for esterases. There is one particular synergist, piperonyl butoxide. Yes, PBO, piperonyl butoxide. Have you heard it? PBO. Piperonyl butoxide, what it does is it inhibits the esterase activity. So, as the piperonyl butoxide inhibits the esterase activity, there is no enzyme to detoxify the chemical. So, the chemical can exert its mortality on the insect. So we can use synergies to suppress data. We can use synergies only if we know the mechanism of resistance. Otherwise, if esterase is not the detoxification mechanism, and if you are using piperonyl butoxide, there is no use in it. Only if you know that esterase is the major mechanism of resistance, then only you can use PBO. Then mix insecticides with different modes of action and metabolism. That is insecticide mixture. We have to slightly discuss about insecticide mixtures that we will do later. Each and every point I will slightly elaborate tomorrow. I'm just going through it today. And reduce the total amount of selection pressure. That means reduce the intensity of selection. So first thing we can do is we can reduce the concentration of pesticide which we are using. The idea behind reduction of pesticide dose is to help in the survival of some susceptible individuals. If you are reducing the dose, some susceptible individuals will survive, and these susceptible individuals will mate with the resistant individuals, and the resistance development can be slowed down. But this strategy practically doesn't hold in a field situation. And the next strategy we can adopt, reduce the number of or the frequency of pesticide application. You have seen In cotton belt and all, farmers may be going for 30, 40 sprays in a season. If we try to bring it down to 10 to 15, resistance development can be slowed down. That is the reduction in selection pressure. And another way is to use pesticides with short residual activity, short persistence. The pesticide that we have discussed several times, the pesticide is more persistent, the chance of development of resistance also will be high. So use a pesticide which has short persistence, and do not spray all the habitat. Go for spot application. That means refugia. If you have in BPH for rice leaf folder management and all, we advise spot application. Only in those areas where leaf folder is there or BPH is there, that means we can prevent the mortality of insect natural enemies. And also another advantage is it will have some individuals, susceptible individuals surviving. You are treating only a portion of the field where you have high population of the insect. In the other area, there will be susceptible individuals. So these susceptible individuals can breed with resistant individuals, and we can reduce the resistance frequency. And go for rotation of pesticide. Rotation of pesticides with different mode of action. That is extremely important. Okay, remaining thing I will, anyway, I won't be able to complete this resistance management. I will complete it tomorrow. Stop for today. Any clarifications do you need?